Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Eileen F. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. As the lovely Alexandra has said, Tesla is recruiting heavily in legal and government affairs. She said she checks on this regularly, and now this is at least 2x the previous listings. The reason this is of significance, if you were to go through Tesla's 10K, their annual reports, and look through the legal proceedings, there are always lawsuits going on in the background that aren't always being reported on by the mainstream media. Of course, we hear about the big and catchy ones, but just for one example, we have right here from their most recent 10K last year, they're looking into Tesla's waste segregation practices. And it's pretty simple. As Tesla continues to grow and has more customers where things could go wrong, and as they develop autonomy, as they disrupt more industries and make more enemies, hire more employees, you get the picture, things will always come up. So one, Tesla will be better able to defend itself now and for whatever is coming down the pike. And two, maybe also go on the offensive a bit more. Remember Elon talking about hiring some street fighters, so that could be the situation when warranted. Responding to Thailand's prime minister talking about their shared vision of a cleaner future, Elon said it was an honor to meet. Thailand has a very exciting future. Heinrich Zane put together a video on Tesla Semi and the latest developments. I want to share a few key takeaways.
What we're looking at here is a sample of the long-range version of the Tesla Semi. The long-range version is a 3-pack, 900 kilowatt configuration, and the standard range is a 2-pack, 600 kilowatt configuration. The ones with the black fairings, I've never actually seen them on the highway, and I believe they use these to test out inverters, possibly new self-driving software, bus bars. I don't actually see these ever out on the highway. Here we go, we get 3 long-range Tesla Semis and then the short-range Tesla Semi, and you can clearly see the difference in length and the size of the fairing. 2 shifts, probably 2 to 3 vehicles, Tesla Semis running the same route day after day, 6 days a week, 1 day off, and the point is they want to stay ahead of the Pepsi Semis in mileage, and in order to uncover any issues before Pepsi does. When we're talking about Tesla, there's 2 distinct divisions. There's a Tesla production that uses Tesla semis to deliver battery packs and drive units from Giga, Nevada to Fremont. And that is separate from Tesla engineering, which it has the task of putting as many miles on these Tesla semis as they can.
Just a quick note on the possible upcoming Model 3 Plaid or Performance. There is a lot of speculation right now. People are throwing around an 800 horsepower Model 3 Performance. Where's this coming from? Well, there's some speculation out there that this new variant could have 275 tires on the rear axle, which would be broader than those on the previous Model 3 Performance variant. The thought goes if they put wider tires on this vehicle, it's because it needs to handle more power. With the horsepower, I could be missing something, but it looks like this source is just assuming that 800 horsepower could be the number, given that the Plaid is right around 1,000 horsepower on the S. I also saw some folks talking about how this T for the European Model 3 Plus certification could mean tri-motor, but I really don't think that's the case because right next to it, it actually says dual motor. All of that to say, a performance variant could absolutely be coming at some point. I would almost go as far far as saying it's likely, but in terms of specs and horsepower and all of that, it just seems far too early to tell. So yes, I want us to keep our expectations in check, but if I'm being honest, low-key, I'm really hoping that Tesla does go through with something like this, even if it slows down the manufacturing process. Dan shared some images of the Model 3 Plus in ultra red. This was the first time I had seen this color on the new Model 3. And then just a quick side-to-side comparison. This car can't come to North America soon enough in whatever colors they choose to give us over here. We also got some pictures of the actual OEM power trunk install from Tesla. This was what we saw in their marketing materials, and this is how it actually looks. So yeah, definitely a slight bit of a difference. For those in cold weather climates, just something to keep in mind. Troy Teslike shared some data from the EPA that showed us the 2170 cells with the NCA chemistry lose about 12.9% of their energy in cold weather climates. Compare that to a pack using LFP, lithium iron phosphate, that only loses about 4.5%. To be clear, these numbers do not factor in things like heating the cabin. It's just how much energy you can actually pull from the battery in those colder climates. We've known that Giga Austin was set to expand pretty significantly with Cybertruck production, but we actually get a lot more color from this article. Right now, Tesla employs more than around 20,000 people at Giga Texas, making it the second largest private employer in the region. However, once they ramp production of the Cybertruck, that number is expected to triple to around 60,000 employees. This according to Jason Shahan, Tesla's director of manufacturing at Giga Texas. Jason just gave a fairly rare keynote address in Austin. Shahan took on his role at Giga Texas after previously working at Ford. He said so far the biggest struggle has been the company's mass hiring, with 20,000 employees on site daily, with workers coming from far reaches of the metro area. We essentially brought in a ton of people. The company didn't have enough parking for workers. To fix the issue, the company is now building a parking garage near the factory. As Joe Tetmeyer said, if you're wondering where the new multi-level garage will be, he shared this image. So here's the factory, here's some employee parking, and the garage is set to go right here. The sheer magnitude of Tesla's employee base also means the company needs to be mindful of company culture and safety. With this expansion, Tesla is set to become one of the largest employers in Central Texas. Right now, they rank behind only grocery chain HEB. Tesla is installing a melt center so it can reuse casting scraps, and it plans to do the same with old wheels that can become the front underbody of the car. They're also looking into how to reuse minerals from battery packs, which could be a market for the EV space eventually. As we've mentioned, Tesla is doing line upgrades to increase the output of Model Ys. The article also shared this memo that Elon had sent to his employees focusing on progress, precision, and profit. So if you'd like to read it, you can go ahead and pause the screen here or take a screenshot. But on X, I did provide some quick bullet points. Get rid of large and excessive meetings. Leave meetings if you're not adding value. Don't use acronyms and jargon. Direct communication across departments, get rid of the chain of command, and pick common sense as your guide. And as Elon says, if following a company rule is obviously ridiculous in a particular situation, such that it would make for a great Dilbert cartoon, then the rule should change. But here's a story that Jason shared that really encapsulates the essence of Tesla. He said most people would start building a building, then install the robots, and then have the cars designed and start building. But with Tesla, we were doing everything at once. We actually launched the new Giga casting for the front structure, and so we were putting the body robot lines in without the roof on the building. 2 Junes ago, it was the wettest June in Austin. Every night we were out there with squeegees trying to get the water away from the robots. Tesla doing incredible things for employment, for the economy and the supply chain, and yet still minimal acknowledgement from the government. I thought Tesla's new Help Me Choose page on their website was pretty ironic. It's essentially a quiz that helps you figure out what Tesla might be best suited for your needs when they only have 4 options to select from in the first place. So real quick, I'll just click through this so you can see what it's all about. You can choose SUV, we'll go next. How far do you drive each day? How will you use your new vehicle? Select all that apply. That sounds good. What do you want most from your next vehicle? And they recommend me a Model X all-wheel drive. If I click over, it also mentions the Plaid, and one more time, it has a little bit on why go electric. So for us, it might seem a little silly, but for the general public who really is starting from the ground level, hopefully it's a little helpful. Tesla released a new video sharing some engineering insights into their sound system that a lot of people do rave about. Most of the complaints that I've seen are about the sound in the backseat, but it sounds like people just being a little nitpicky. It'll be below if you want to check out the full thing, but there is one clip I wanted to play.
This is Tessie, our head and torso simulator. It's used to tune telephony. It has a speaker in the mouth and microphones in the ears, so it can acoustically do everything a human could do. The measurements are done first, and then in the second level, we really listen to it and do fine adjustments.
So most people spend time in their cars listening to music, but Tesla is special because we also have video and gaming capabilities. Very few cars currently let you do that. With the subwoofer and the woofers in the car, the effects of watching a movie, it sounds much bigger than the screen or the car, so people definitely enjoy it.
I think the really unique thing is the amount of design and development that we do in-house. Internal teams at Tesla work extremely closely together in order to optimize all sorts of systems in the car, including the audio system.
When I first started driving and was growing up, it was literally all about the sound system and the interior ambiance for me. So to see Tesla doing so much in-house engineering work on the sound system, I love to see it. We have Esther reporting the first V4 supercharger has opened in Italy, located southeast of Rome. First V4 in Italy, but this station does appear to have some V4 and some V3. So perhaps one of the first blended supercharger stations that we've seen. Tesla's virtual power plant is now expanding to also include San Diego gas and electric utility customers. So now Tesla Powerwall owners in San Diego can join this VPP right through the mobile app. So right now Tesla is working on rolling out its virtual power plant program in Texas, South Australia, San Diego, Puerto Rico, and California. And quickly checking in on the VPP in California, you can see as of the end of July of this year, the number of homes in this program has crossed 7,700. In 2022 alone in California, this VPP contributed 577 megawatt hours during grid events, providing around 116 megawatt hours of potential backup energy per event. A new article from RBB24 says Brandenburg has the strongest economic growth in the country, and we know whose factory is in Brandenburg. They start off by saying the German economy is weakening, but in Brandenburg the situation is completely different. This growth in Brandenburg was primarily driven by the automotive industry, and Jörg Steinbach has said he sees Tesla as a driving force behind this growth. In recent years, this area has developed into the industry with the highest sales and employment in the state of Brandenburg, which is largely due to the ramp up of production at Tesla. But it's not just the company, but also the growing supply industry and the battery materials industry, aka the supply chain that follows Tesla wherever it goes. He continued, many suppliers have settled in Brandenburg and formed a value chain around this new industry. A growth core is being created here that will bring a boost and new prosperity to the entire region. This right here is exactly why people around the world are clamoring to have Elon and Tesla set up shop in their home markets. Keep in mind, these numbers could be even better if we didn't have the Inflation Reduction Act taking some of the 4680 focus from Berlin away from that location that has since been moved to Austin. It's also been reported that Giga Berlin has been hampered by some labor shortages, so it's not like Giga Berlin is firing on all cylinders. It's still ramping, but it could be even better, and eventually it will be. This video was shared on X of the Uber and Lyft pickup area at the airport. As you can see, super long lines, everybody waiting. The last time I traveled, I rented a Tesla from Hertz in Orlando. If I'm being honest, the experience was subpar at best. At first, they said they didn't even have the Tesla that I rented. They were gonna give me an entirely different car. That story aside, the reason I'm sharing this is because my mind immediately goes to thinking about lots with little next-gen robotaxis just sitting there waiting for these people to go right in, plug in their destination, and be off. So the fact that most likely most of these people standing in these lines have no idea about FSD be or that Tesla is trying to solve the problem is why we need to keep telling people about what's going on and what's coming. Tesla's environmental impact permits have been approved by the government in Mexico. So now Tesla is going to have to comply with some regulations that are set forth by these agencies. Rule number 1, Tesla will not be allowed to clear the entire site at once and will only be allowed to clear the property in stages. Tesla can only clear land that is required for the current construction. Then Tesla can clear subsequent areas as the construction continues to expand. To clear and level certain parts of the land, they said Tesla has to use a high-powered explosive, which hopefully a drone operator captures on video. Tesla will also have to ensure that native trees located in areas where construction don't take place be protected and not removed. Tesla must ensure that at least 500 native trees will be preserved or replanted in the area. Tesla must also create a dust control plan to minimize the impact construction will have on air quality in the region. Now, Tesla has 26 months to begin construction, but there are still some other permits Tesla has to have in hand before they can actually begin construction, one of which is the land use permit, which is still awaiting approval. If you're wondering, this is the actual source where all of that information just came from. Unfortunately, the video is in Spanish and the English translation is questionable at best. And we'll call this 2 years. Personally, I took that part to mean that Tesla would not be able to begin construction for another 2 years and 2 months. Not that anytime in the next 2 years, Tesla is able to begin construction. So it's possible we don't see construction of Giga Mexico, the factory itself, begin until toward the end of 2025, meaning production maybe not until the end of 2026. But again, that could work out really well. Hopefully we see some early next-gen production at Giga Austin well before that. From Drive Tesla Canada, they pointed out that a Tesla Magic Dock station has been installed in Alaska. It's on all 8 of the V3 supercharger stalls at this location. To date, we've seen Magic Dock locations in New York, Canada, Texas, California, and now Alaska. Not a Tesla app is reporting that with software.32.4, Tesla is bringing some of the FSD visualizations to the regular Autopilot. They said the vehicle will now determine the width, height, and length of each vehicle in the surroundings and the size of the 3D model appropriately in the visualization, where before they used static 3D models. One example of a visualization coming to Autopilot, the open door visualization. The door will be displayed in the vehicle's standard gray color unless Autopilot determines the door is in the vehicle's course, which it will then highlight in orange. From Benchmark, they're saying lithium battery capacity is set to grow 4-fold by the end of the decade, but the industry has to overcome cost and quality issues as it expands outside of Asia. And they said more than a third of this production set to come online is tied to or coming from producers that are untested or unqualified. So something to keep in mind, but they did say that North America's percentage of this battery supply capacity is set to increase to 14.7% by the end of the decade from 6% last year, and that China is on track to maintain its dominance as the world's top cell producer with 68% share in 2030. Rivian just opened a new retail store in Brooklyn, and they said, think playground, not showroom. You're welcome to jump in and on our vehicles. At this showroom, you can also purchase some of their adventure gear. So if you're in the area, you can schedule a demo drive, and they have experienced specialists on hand to answer everybody's questions. And we get a pretty big update for the UAW strikes. They will expand their strikes against GM and Stellantis, but they said they have made real progress in talks with Ford. The UAW will begin strikes against 38 parts distribution centers across the United States at GM and Stellantis at noon today. The additional facilities will add about 5,600 workers to the 12,700 already on strike. Sean Fain said that by targeting distribution centers, this turns the strike into a nationwide event. He said the way to fix the frustrating customer experience is for the companies to end price gouging. We will be everywhere from California to Massachusetts, from Oregon to Florida. Stellantis and GM in particular are going to need some serious pushing. They have more work to do at Ford, but we do want to recognize that Ford is showing they're serious about reaching a deal. Stellantis has said it wants to be able to consolidate and close some of its parts distribution centers. Fain said Ford had improved its contract offer, including boosting profit sharing and agreeing to let workers strike over plant closures, but said the union still has serious issues with Ford. Ford also agreed to convert temporary employees with at least 90 days employment to full-time upon ratification of a deal. That's a big one. Ford said it's continuing to negotiate, adding that we have more work ahead of us before we can reach an agreement. It should be noted though, this wider strike will still not directly impact the bigger guns like the Chevy Silverado and Stellantis' Ram. I like how Dan Ives put it. He said, this strike's going to get a lot nastier. The current deal is a torpedo to the business models of the Detroit 3. To take a deal just to avoid a strike and to get it done is great for the next 24 hours, but a nightmare for the next 30 years. S&P has said the strikes were highly likely to last several weeks, potentially cutting third quarter US GDP by 0.4% and causing upheaval across the global automotive supply chains.
The companies have been around 19 to 20% in their offer. It's not enough. It's not going to get where we need to be. And, when we get to that point, we'll make that decision. But ultimately, it's the members' decision. They're going to make that decision. No matter what we bring to the membership, this is their contract. They're going to have the final say.
GM came out and said,
Where's the need to be figure, Sean?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Where's the need to be figure? Meaning, are you still at 40, or when you say they need to get where they need to be?
It's going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on cost of living. It's going to depend on retirement security. It's going to depend on several issues. And right now, we are nowhere on several of those issues with the company. So all those things play into the final decision. So,
are the negotiations contentious, or is there a friendly dialogue?
I mean, I wouldn't call it friendly. I mean, we have an objective. We have a membership to represent. We're going to represent their interest, and we're going to do whatever we have to do to get it.
How far do you think the gap is between GM and Stellantis right now?
It's pretty big. Most of our members can't even afford to buy what we make. And so this is about wages. 6% pay increases in the last 4 years. Inflation went up almost 20. We're going backwards.
You may have also seen part of the UAW's strategy aims to damage the company's reputations and to keep them wounded for months. The union's goal is to extract gains from automakers by pitting them against one another instead of using the pattern bargaining approach of past negotiations. This strategy has added to the concerns among the companies that the union has not been bargaining in good faith, according to two sources with knowledge of the matter. Apparently, these comments were posted in a group chat on X by the UAW communications director, and Stellantis has called this incredibly disturbing. The UAW director then said they were private messages you shouldn't have. And Sean Fain said, a shame on the corporations for putting that stuff out there. Ford's communications chief said it's disappointing to say the least given what is at stake for our employees, the companies, and this region. GM striking a bit different of a tone, saying it's now clear that the UAW leadership has always intended to cause months-long disruption regardless of the harm it causes to members and their communities. The leaked info calls into question who's actually in charge of UAW strategy and shows a callous disregard for the seriousness of what is at stake. And Stellantis said these reported comments made by the UAW communications director are incredibly disturbing and strongly indicate the UAW's approach to these talks is not in the best interests of the workforce. In one of those private messages, a UAW representative said they can basically price in an all-out strike, but if we can keep them wounded for months, they don't know what to do, and we're breaking pattern in their bargaining against each other for the first time in 70 years. So yep, things are certainly heating up. Toyota plans to triple electric vehicle production in 2025 from its 2024 plan. The automaker has notified major part suppliers of its plans to boost production of Toyota and Lexus brand EVs to 600,000 units in 2025. The target for 2024 is 190,000, while Toyota sold 24,000 EVs last year. The EV target for this year is 150,000. But for 2025, their new EV targets still only make up 5 to 6% of all of the vehicles they're set to produce. Toyota is rolling out a new EV Hilux model in Thailand and electric SUVs in China and the US next year. In the US, batteries for the EVs will be primarily produced at a dedicated plant scheduled to start operation in 2025. They're also looking to get batteries from CATL, BYD, and LG. Toyota plans to introduce a next-generation EV platform starting with Lexus models in 2026 using Giga casting equipment. Toyota hopes to sell 3.5 million EVs in 2030, of which 1.7 million will be on this new platform. But their overall strategy remains to value all power sources. And yes, you better believe this has been added to the prediction tracker. BYD is continuing its aggressive push into global markets. They just launched the Dolphin into Mexico. BYD is now in Japan, South America, Australia, India, and some others, and it's the top selling EV maker in Thailand, Brazil, Colombia, and Israel. As Sandy Monroe likes to say, the Chinese are still coming. Hope you guys have a safe and wonderful weekend. Please take a second to like the video if you did. You can find me on X, linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.